Hi, this is Laura Abbott.
And this is Alan Abbott. And we are going to read a book for you.
And it's called That's Good, That's Bad on Santa's Journey by Marjorie Kyler. It was Christmas Eve. Santa climbed into his sleigh, kissed Mrs. Claus goodbye, smooch, and told his reindeer to take off. Giddy up.
Oh, that's good.
No, that's bad.
Oh.
The wind blew whoosh and it began to snow. It snowed so hard that Santa had to land next to an igloo. Brrr! He thought he'd never get to deliver his presents that night. What a disaster!
Oh, that's bad.
No, that's good. Santa waited for the snow to stop. Tick tock, and finally it did. After leaving some presents at the igloo, he and his reindeer took off again. Whee!
Oh, that's good.
No, that's bad. When Santa reached a little boy's house, the roof was so icy that his reindeer slid across it, slippity slop, and slammed into the chimney. Crash!
Oh, that's bad.
No, that's good. The reindeer untangled their reins. What a mess! And pulled the sleigh to safety. Phew! Santa jumped out with his bag of toys and climbed down the chimney. Huff, puff.
Oh, that's good.
No, that's bad. As he made his way toward the bottom, he got stuck because of his round potbelly. Oomph!
Oh, that's bad.
No, that's good. The dust in the chimney made Santa sneeze. Achoo! And he was catapulted down to the fireplace. Kaboom!
Oh, that's good.
No, that's bad. As he crawled into the living room, he tripped over a kitty cat and bumped his head on a table. Ouch! presents spilled out of his bag, thumpity clatter.
Oh, that's bad.
No, that's good. Santa rubbed his head, patted the kitty, purr, and picked up all the presents. He stuffed them back into his bag and stumbled over to the Christmas tree. How dazzling!
Oh, that's good.
No, that's bad. As Santa leaned over to put presents under the tree, the seat of his pants split from top to bottom. Rip!
Oh, that's bad.
No, that's good. Santa was wearing long underwear beneath his suit, so he tossed his ripped pants into the wastebasket, swish, held in his stomach, and squeezed back up the chimney. Bye-bye.
That's good.
No, that's bad. When he got to the roof, pant, he saw that his reindeer had gotten tired of waiting and had flown off without him. Oops.
Oh, that's bad.
No, that's good. Santa whistled for his reindeer, tweet, tweet, and they all came flying back. Whiz!
Oh, that's good.
No, that's bad. They took off with Santa, zoom, zoom, and as they swerved to avoid a huge pine tree, Santa fell out of the sleigh and landed in a big snowdrift. Ploppity plop.
Oh, that's bad.
No, that's good. The reindeer swooped down as Santa struggled out of the snowdrift. Oof! He jumped back into his sleigh and delivered the rest of the presents. Merry Christmas.
Oh, that's good.
No, that's terrific. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Hi, I'm Susan Curtis, and today I'm going to be reading The Lights in the Church, written by Marilee Joy Mayfield. They had wandered too long in the unknown park. The sun had gone down and it was getting dark. As the night fell, the air soon turned cold. The boy held out his hand for his sister to hold. "I'm scared," she said as she looked all around. "We'll be fine," he said. "Look, see the tracks on the ground? There in the snow were prints from them to follow. Where the deer had walked, the snow was now hollow." So they started to walk with footprints as their guide, to find a place for the night where they could both hide. They soon came upon a circle of very tall trees. The snow was so dense it came up to their knees. A family of deer walked up close to see who these two-legged creatures could possibly be. They had never seen children, so they wanted to know why they were there and stuck in the snow. "I think those are the deer that made the tracks here. If we follow where they go, we'll have nothing to fear." The boy spoke softly and his sister nodded her head. They both wished they were home and tucked into their bed. So they both kept walking and following the deer. Then there was a bright light and the path became clear. The stars were sparkling gems in the sky, and more animals followed as the children walked by. Up ahead in a clearing shone splendid rays of light. It was a beautiful church, a beacon in the night. They looked at God's beauty that was all around. They forgot they were lost. Inner peace was soon found. The boy said, "Inside the church we'll be safe and sound. But when they got to the entrance, no one was around. And yet the place was lit with an angelic light. It seemed so heavenly, though it was locked up tight. As they walked to a window, something amazing occurred. The stained glass was moving and hymns could be heard. As they slowly looked up, they saw the first story. It was Christ's first miracle in all his glory. A wedding had started and he was a guest. Then his mother, Mary, came and made a request. Please help the bride and groom on their special day. They've run out of wine and are in dismay. The servers poured water into 6 jars of stone. Per Christ's request, then they left them alone. With a wave of his hand and a miracle divine, he turned the plain water into sweet-tasting wine. How did Jesus do that? The wide-eyed girl asked her brother. The boy said, by the grace of God and to please his mother. That's the kind of love I have for Mom and Dad, like the hugs they give us even when we are bad. They walked further down and a new window came into view, with bright rays of light that warmly streamed through. There they saw Jesus, who was surrounded by a crowd, as he spoke of God's kingdom clearly and loud. Then Christ's disciples came up to him to speak. Lord, we've been here many hours and the people feel weak. They are tired and hungry. It's been a very long day. We can't feed them all. We must send them away. Jesus asked, we don't have enough food so they can all stay? The disciples replied, there's not enough food to feed 5,000 today. Jesus said, bring what you have to me. This is my wish. They delivered 5 loaves of bread and 2 small fish. Jesus touched the food, gazed to heaven, and prayed. And soon his God-given powers were proudly displayed. The disciples began to feed all who were there, and as the food multiplied, there was plenty to share. All the people were happy. It was a blessing to each. They stayed many hours more and listened to Jesus teach. The boy smiled to his sister. Jesus gives us what we need. Just as he fed the hungry crowd, he'll provide if you believe. The snow began to fall as the children continued to walk. The miracle of the windows soon silenced their talk. The 3rd story showed the beginnings of a huge storm. The disciples were huddled together in a boat to stay warm. Jesus prayed on the shore as the winds started to blow. As the storm became stronger, fear began to grow. Through crashing waves, Jesus ventured out toward the boat. He walked on the water just like he was on top of a float. At first, the disciples thought they were seeing a ghost, not a man. But little did they know it was part of Christ's plan. This miracle was about having faith to overcome doubt. Jesus said, don't be afraid. I am your Lord. Just walk out. Peter bravely said, I will walk out to you, Lord. And at the beginning, his courage had soared, but he began to sink as the waves crashed and the wind blew. Peter became scared and he didn't know what to do. He cried out, "Lord, save me! Please give me your hand." Jesus grabbed him, but he wanted Peter to understand. Jesus asked, "What happened? You were walking out to me. If you'd only kept faith, you could walk. Can't you see?" The girl spoke. "We should have faith that we'll be safe too." "Yes," said her brother, "even when it's not easy to do." "What do you think the next story will be?" They were excited as they walked to the fourth window to see. The scene came alive and they saw Jesus entering a city. 10 lepers approached him and cried out, "Lord, have pity." "You shall all be healed." Jesus smiled with emotion. "Now go to the church and express your devotion." One of the men rushed back to give thanks. He was cured. "I'm so grateful, Lord. You've made my prayers heard. It's thanks to you that I'm completely healed." At Christ's feet, he bowed his head and kneeled. "Where are the others?" Jesus asked. "You are the only grateful soul? I thank you for returning. Your faith has made you whole." The girl looked to her brother. "I'm thankful I'm with you." "Me too," he smiled. "Giving thanks is what we should do." A 5th lively window lit up for the children to view. They walked further in the snow to a scene marvelous and new. There were lots of families living their lives day to day as they served the Lord at work, at home, and at play. Then the scene changed and they suddenly realized their own family was pictured. They couldn't believe their eyes. The girl smiled. "It's Mom and Dad, and we're even there too." The boy grinned. "And Jesus is blessing us in this beautiful view." There was only one window that was left to see. The children couldn't imagine just what it might be. A choir sang loudly and a rainbow of light poured through. From around the world they saw what Christians do. All races and nations were gladly helping out to save others from sickness, from fear, and from doubt. And as they brought joy, Jesus Christ could be found there in every little gesture of kindness and care. The church doors opened and they saw Mom and Dad. Their mom hugged them both. "You're safe. We're so glad." Their dad smiled. "You know, you shouldn't wander away. Next time you must stay closer to us when you play." The girl nodded. "Can we go home now? I can't wait to get in bed." Their mom laughed. "Yes, honey, you're such a sleepyhead." "But first," their dad said, "the church doors are opened wide, so let's go say a quick prayer of thanks inside." The 4 of them walked in and knelt down in a pew, and they prayed and gave thanks for all they'd been through. After getting home and through the years of happiness and laughter, they remembered the special church forever thereafter.
Hello, I'm Dennis Derricks with the First United Methodist Church in Kewanee, and I will be reading for you tonight The Day Santa Stopped Believing in Harold. One stormy night very close to Christmas, Santa and Mrs. Claus were sitting in their cozy little log cabin at the North Pole. Mrs. Claus was busy mending the seam of Santa's favorite best pair of red velvet pants. Santa was supposed to be going over the roster for this year's sleigh team. Instead, he was moping. Several times, Mrs. Claus asked Santa what was wrong. Each time, he muttered, "Nothing," and then sighed loudly. Finally, Mrs. Claus said, "Papa, I can't help you if you won't tell me what the problem is." "All right," said Santa with another sigh. "Well, you know Harold." Mrs. Claus smiled. Brown hair, freckles, lost a tooth last week, sometimes forgets to stop, interrupted Santa in a choked voice. "Don't say another word. You don't need to keep pretending on my account because I don't believe in Harold anymore." Mrs. Claus stared at Santa as though he'd suddenly sprouted antlers. "Look, Harold has always been a big part of my Christmas, and I still like the idea of Harold," explained Santa. "But lately, I've come to realize that there are a lot of things about Harold that just don't make sense." "Like what?" asked Mrs. Claus. "For one thing, I'm pretty sure his mom writes his Santa letter," said Santa. "So what if she does?" said Mrs. Claus. "That doesn't mean anything." "Maybe not," said Santa. "But what about the snack, huh? What about that?" "What about it?" asked Mrs. Claus. "I think Harold's dad lays out my snack on Christmas Eve," whispered Santa dramatically. "Think about it. Harold is way too small to lift a big carton of milk. He can barely hold his own head up." "Papa, Harold isn't a baby anymore." "Yes, well, that's another thing, isn't it?" said Santa. "That Harold who sat on my knee at the mall last year didn't even look like the real Harold." "Harold is a real person, Papa," said Mrs. Claus. "Real people look different from year to year." "Santa, listening, you know what's going on here, don't you?" he asked. "Harold's parents are trying to trick me into believing in him." "And just why would they want to do that?" asked Mrs. Claus. "They think if I know the truth about Harold, Christmas will be ruined for me," cried Santa. "Either that, or they want the Harold gifts all for themselves." Mrs. Claus shook her head and said, "You know what you're doing, don't you? You're looking for reasons to not believe in Harold instead of just accepting him as one of the best, most magical parts of Christmas." Santa looked uncomfortable and maybe even a little uncertain, but all he said was, "I know what I know." The terrible news traveled like a spooked Arctic hare. Santa had stopped believing in children. "Not all children," Santa assured Merpin, the elf supervisor in the computer gizmo department. "Just Harold." "Uh-huh," said Merpin. "And you know what else?" said Santa. "I'm not the only one who don't believe in him. My friends don't believe in him either." "Uh-huh," said Merpin. "Jack Frost says his mom and dad told him that Harold doesn't exist. And the abominable snow monster says only a baby would believe in Harold." "Uh-huh," said Merpin. "Do I look like a baby to you?" boomed Santa. Merpin stared at Santa's twinkling eyes, rosy cheeks, and jiggling jelly belly. "Forget I asked," sniffed Santa. "I'm going to talk to the reindeer." The reindeer listened carefully to Santa's evidence against the existence of Harold. They then, whispering amongst themselves for a few minutes, finally, Donner said, "On the one hand, we're not convinced that Harold is real." "I knew it," said Santa unhappily. "On the other hand," continued Donner, "we're not convinced that Harold isn't real." So what are you saying? Asked Santa. What we're saying is that you need proof, said Donner, and we think we know just how you can get it. Now, strange as it seems, while Santa was up north telling Mrs. Claus, the elves, and the reindeer that he didn't think Harold was real, Harold was down south telling his parents and his friends and his turtle that he didn't think Santa was real. Deep in his heart, Harold wanted to believe in Santa, but the older Harold got, the harder it was for him to just have faith. What I need is proof, thought Harold, and I think I know how I can get it. That Christmas Eve, Harold hung his stockings, helped set out the Santa snack, and hugged his parents goodnight, just like he did every Christmas Eve. On this particular night, however, after his mom and dad had gone to bed, Harold tiptoed back to the front room and hid behind the armchair across from the fireplace. If Santa is real, thought Harold drowsily, I will definitely be able to see him coming. Many hours later, Santa and the reindeer touched down on the roof of Harold's house, which Santa had saved for last. Santa's plan was to hide in Harold's front room and see if Harold ran out of his bedroom on Christmas morning. If he did, Santa would know that Harold was real. If he didn't, well, Harold's parents would have some explaining to do. After setting into his hiding spot, Santa tried to stay awake, but it was extremely warm and cozy in Harold's front room, and Santa was very tired after his hard night's work. Slowly, he closed his sleepy eyes. The next thing Santa knew, it was Christmas morning. Too bad we don't know any little boys who'd like to open some presents from Santa, said Harold's mom, who had spotted Harold hiding behind the armchair. Ah, thought Santa, too bad there are no presents from Santa, whispered Harold's father. Oops, thought Santa, who had forgotten to set out the gifts before hiding. I don't care about presents, said Harold as he slowly stood up. I just wanted to see if Santa, and I didn't. At the sound of Harold's voice, Santa's heart gave a big leap. You're real, he shouted joyfully as he jumped up from behind the sofa. Harold's mother screamed. Harold's father sprayed coffee everywhere. Harold's face lit up like a Christmas tree. You're real, he shouted, running over to give Santa a hug. After Harold and Santa got over the shock of finding out that each of them had thought the other wasn't real, they sat on the floor reading comics, playing with toys, and licking candy canes until the sound of tiny hoofs impatiently stomping on the roof reminded Santa that it was time to go home. Goodbye, Harold. Goodbye, Harold's parents, cried Santa as he prepared to magic himself up the chimney. Goodbye, Santa, cried Harold. See you next Christmas morning, unless you'd rather fall asleep behind someone else's sofa, cried his parents. Santa's big booming laugh rang out once, shaking the walls and knocking several glass ornaments off the tree. And then, in the wink of an eye, he was gone. The end. And Merry Christmas to everyone.
Our story tonight is Santa Stuck. It's by Rhonda Gowler Green and illustrated by Henry Cole. I think you'll enjoy all of the pictures in here. So Santa's stuck. We'll see what happens to him. Toys are nestled, tree lights low, stockings stuffed, march in a row. Santa sighs, oh, it's time to go. Gathers up his giant sack, spies a note and Christmas snack. It says, Dear Santa, we have been very good. Boys and girls have been so kind. They left sweets for him to find. His suit feels rather snug. Santa shrugs a jolly shrug. One more cookie? Couldn't hurt. This last snack will be dessert. Santa rests his weary feet, munches on a scrumptious treat. Nibble, nibble, tasty crumbs, licks the frosting from his thumbs, smacks his lips on fruitcake too. Wolfs the whole thing, chomp, chomp, chew. Chocolate fudge, he sneaks a piece, can't resist, he has a feast. Belly bulges, Santa stops, uh-oh, look, a button pops. Restless reindeer, cold wind blows, up the chimney Santa goes. Wonder if it'll fit. Suddenly a sound is heard, rap, tap, tap, and one wee word, help. Little ones tucked in their beds, candy cane dreams in their heads. Slumber on, don't hear a peep, but dog bolts upright from his sleep. Bravely pit-pats down the stair, sees boots kicking in the air. Uh-oh. Santa whispers, I'm stuck tight. Dog helps push with all his might. No luck, Santa's stuck. Meanwhile, reindeer heed the plea. From a chain, then pull on 3. It's the dog holding him up. 1, 2, 3. Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Dodger, Blitzen, Rudolph too. They all heave ho as one dog pushes down below. No luck, Santa's stuck. Mama cat wakes from her nap, hears that help and rap tap tap. Sees that Santa's in a fix, calls her kittens 1 through 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Meow. Reindeer, dog, kittens, cat, pull like this, push like that. No luck, Santa's stuck. Ho, 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 a tiny mouse stirs inside his tiny house. Just look at all of them pushing him. Scampers out to lend a hand. Santa gives the go command. Push, pull, push, pull. Uh-oh, mouse has an idea. There he is, with his little truck. Push, pop. Mouse came up with the idea. Whoosh. There goes Santa. Santa's out, a silent cheer. Reindeer harness up their gear. Back inside his Christmas sleigh, Santa shouts, now dash away. Then he waves and soars from sight. Merry Christmas and a good night. And that's the end. Have a blessed Christmas, everyone.
Good evening. My name is Linda Bowles, and I'm going to read to you tonight The Lost Gift, A Christmas Story by Callie George. On a windy Christmas Eve, 4 little animals huddled on top of Mercy Woods hills. They were so excited that they barely felt the cold. They were waiting for Santa to fly by on his sleigh. There he is, shouted Rabbit. This is just a cloud. There he is, Rabbit chirped up again. That's just a... Oh, Squirrel began, but this time it really was Santa. They all waved and Santa waved back to them. For a few minutes, the stars shone brighter and the air smelled with pine and peppermint. And then a big gust of wind hit the sleigh, and a present tumbled down like a shooting star landing in the woods. He'll be back for it, said Rabbit confidently. The others nodded. They waited and waited, but Santa didn't come back for the gift. What should we do? Said the worried deer. Let's go find it, said Rabbit. Santa would want us to. Santa would want us to go home, grumbled Squirrel. But Bird was already flying off. Come on, she chirped. In a square hole in the snow, they found the present, and Rabbit dug it out, and Squirrel shook it. Clickety-click, it rattled, and the deer jumped. What in the world is that? Bird began to peck at the paper. Stop, said Rabbit. It doesn't belong to us. Look, there's a tag. I can read the tag, I can, said Bird. And for the new baby at the farm, love, Santa. Oh, the new baby. The animals had heard of the new baby. She'd been born in the summer when the bees buzzed and the farmer's strawberries were sweet. Now the new baby won't get her gift, gulped Deer, trying to hold back the tears. Who cares, said Squirrel. She's not our baby. Do I look like Santa? Groaned Squirrel. But Santa really cares that she gets the present. Santa would want us to deliver it, said the Rabbit. Well, maybe if we had a sleigh, said Bird. A sleigh, said Rabbit. Santa has a sleigh. Let's build one. Squirrel groaned again. So the bird, he's making the bottom of the sleigh, and the deer is bringing the side rails, and the rabbit is bringing the cross rails, and the bird was already working hard, and here is the squirrel with the reins for the deer, and they're all putting the sleigh together, and now they're finished, and they've attached the lead to the deer. When the sleigh was ready to go, the animals carefully slid the present into it and set off, and the stars lit their way. Everything was going well until they came upon a big hill. Up and up and up, Deer trudged, and trudged with the sleigh, and Rabbit and Squirrel in the bush pushed from behind, and finally they reached the top. Swoosh! The sleigh went right down the hill, and whoop! It landed into a snowdrift. Hump, grumbled the squirrel, but he helped dig it out anyway. And the animals moved slowly now. It was long past their bedtime, and they were hungry, and they were tired, and they were ready to give up. Maybe Squirrel was right, thought Rabbit. It really wasn't their baby, so why should they worry about her gift? Then Rabbit thought of Santa. Santa traveled all night, and he probably was hungry and tired too. But Santa would not give up. Rabbit began to sing. Dashing through the snow, we are on our way, through the merry woods, pulling our own sleigh. Soon Bird, Deer, and even Squirrel were singing along, and at last they reached the farmhouse. Deer pulled the sleigh onto the porch. Clippity-clop, were his hooves. Shush, said Squirrel, but it was too late. They had heard the new baby cry. Who's there? Came a man's voice. The animals leaped off the porch and hid. They watched the farmer open the door, holding the crying baby. What's this? Said the farmer, and he looked down at the gift, but the new baby looked out into the night. Did she see them, they wondered? The animals held their breath as the farmer picked up the gift, and he read the tag, and it said, from Santa. And he said to the baby, let's go in and open it. And they went back inside their home. What is it? The deer asked as they all were looking in the window at the farmer and the baby. I can see it, said Bird. It's a stick, groaned Squirrel. A lumpy old stick. A stick isn't a gift. Even Rabbit was disappointed. But the new baby grabbed the stick and shook it. Clickety-click, clickety-click. And they heard faintly through the glass. Great, said the squirrel. A noisy, lumpy stick. They all stared through the window at the new baby, and the new baby stared back. She was smiling right at them, and for a moment it felt as though sunshine warmed the wintry air. Suddenly it didn't matter that the gift was just a lumpy stick. It made the new baby happy, and that made the animals happy. See, they're all smiling as they're looking at the baby. Snow fell softly as the animals headed home, frosting their feathers and their fur. They were too tired to talk, and they were too hungry to sing. But no one complained, not even the squirrel. Above them, the stars slipped away and the sky lightened, welcoming Christmas Day. When the animals got home, they couldn't believe their eyes. There was another gift. Great, moaned Squirrel. Not again. And Bird read the tag. For my animal helpers, Merry Christmas. Love, Santa. It's for us, said Deer. Really? Wondered Square. But how did he know? Santa always knows, said Rabbit. And so the squirrel got a nut, and the bunny rabbit got a carrot, and the deer's got a carrot to eat too. And the bird ate all of the seeds that Santa left them. And Santa is just like our God. Our God never leaves us, and he always knows what we need. Good night, everyone, and Merry Christmas.
My name's Jay, and I'll be reading One Small Lost Sheep by Claudia Mills. A long time ago, on a starlit night, a little shepherd boy named Benjamin was out in the windy hills over Bethlehem searching for one small lost sheep. The rest of his father's sheep were huddled safely together near the other sheep, watched over by the other shepherds. But Benjamin's own best-loved lamb, lame from birth, had strayed from the flock. Benjamin scrambled all over the rocky hillside, calling her name, Kibsa. Brambles tore at Benjamin's bare knees, but he kept on climbing. Kibsa! He thought he saw some white wool up ahead and hurried towards it, but it was only a piece of rough woven cloth dropped by some passing shepherds. Where could Kibsa be? So many dangers could befall a small sheep all alone at night. The rocks were slippery and jagged. Even a sheep who wasn't lame might stumble. Hungry wolves lay in wait, and a large hawk might attack a lone sheep, helpless and unprotected. Benjamin struggled not to cry. He had taken care of Kibsa since her birth. As a sickly newborn, she had sucked on his fingers, dipped in milk. Even from then on, she had followed him everywhere, limping behind him almost as quickly as if her crooked hind leg had been strong and straight. At night, she'd slept curled up next to him so that he felt her warmth through his tunic. Benjamin pressed on, hardly knowing where to look. His legs were scratched and bleeding from the thorns. In the sky above, one star shone brighter than the rest, but its light didn't lead him to Kibsa. Kib, Benjamin called once more, and then he dropped onto the nearest rock and wrapped his arms around his knees, and he cried until he fell asleep. When Benjamin awoke, the night seemed different somehow. The sky was oddly lit, yet Benjamin sensed that dawn was still far away. He rose and began to trudge back to his family. Maybe Kibsa found her way there by now. When he finally reached the shepherds, one glance told him, no, Kibza had not returned. Benjamin, his older brother David, came running to meet him. Did you see it? Kibza? I couldn't find her. No, the stars and the sky. It opened up, and there were angels singing the most beautiful song. Benjamin stared at his brother. He had never seen David so excited. Bewildered, he shook his head. I fell asleep. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. A whole chorus of angels singing just to us. I can't believe you missed it, David said. Well, I did, Benjamin said crossly. It seems so unfair to have lost Kibza, and then he slept through such wonderment. The others had crowded around Benjamin, telling the same astonishing story that David had told. Benjamin interrupted them. You haven't seen Kibza, have you? But no one listened. No one but Benjamin seemed to care about one small lost sheep. The angels brought news that a king was born. Benjamin's father told him, just now in Bethlehem, a king in our own village. We must go and see him at once, a man called out. More voices took up the cry. We must go and see the new king. The shepherds began heading down the hillside, roused their sleeping sheep to follow. Benjamin let the crowd carry him along, but as he went, he strained his eyes for a glimpse of Kibza. When they reached Bethlehem, the shepherds stopped, as if uncertain where to go. The angels said we would find the king in a stable, Benjamin's father said. But which one? There are so many stables in Bethlehem. He sounded almost angry. Suddenly, Benjamin's heart clenched like a fist. From the distance, he heard the bleat of a young sheep. Could it be Kibza? Benjamin pushed past the others and ran ahead, down the dark street, lit by the strangely bright star. He heard a second soft baa, turned the corner, and then saw her, not 10 feet away, in a broken down stable. Kibza stood next to a wooden manger that seemed to glow, as if all the stars of heaven had given their light. Beside her stood other animals. Benjamin recognized them from his village. Isaiah's blind ox, his massive, sightless head was bent low. A half-starved donkey, beaten and neglected by his master. An old goat, stooped with age, missing one ear. Benjamin drew close to Kibza. His throat was thick with tears of joy. Then he saw the newborn baby lying on the manger, warmed by the breath of the animals gathered around it. Behind the manger, he saw a man and a woman too. They smiled at Benjamin, a gentle, welcoming smile. Wordlessly, Benjamin dropped to his knees. He knew without any angels to tell him that this was the newborn king. Then the other shepherds were behind him, kneeling too. Kibza crept beneath the folds of Benjamin's cloak. She lay quietly, her breast soft and warm against his chest. Benjamin could hear the angels now, but this time they were singing in his heart.
Hello, boys and girls. Tonight we're going to read a book, The Night Before Christmas. But this book is just a little bit different. It has another character in it. So let's get started.
You all know this tale, but read this, you'll see. One creature was stirring That creature was me.
'Twas the night before Christmas. Went all through the house. Not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there.
I don't want to butt in, but I'm wide awake. And in Santa's book, that's a naughty mistake.
The children were nestled, all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap.
How can they sleep? I sure wish I could. He'll write in that book. He'll write that I'm no good.
When out on the lawn there rose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the sash.
He's here. I can hear him. Now what do I do? Don't panic. Don't move. Look fast asleep too.
The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer.
I might as well look to be sure that he's real. My friends say he's not. That's not how I feel.
With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his courses they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name.
My gosh, there he is. And I'm in for it now. I've been naughty twice. 2 looks not allowed.
Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away all.
They're coming up now. They're moving this way. St. Nicholas, toys, reindeer, and sleigh.
As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the courses they flew, with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too.
Okay, try to calm down and climb back into bed. Don't look like you're breathing. Pretend that you're dead.
And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound.
He's landed above. His sleigh's just outside. Wow, look at that thing. Oh man, what a ride.
He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack.
That sleigh is still moving, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't he put that sleigh parking brake on?
His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow.
Oh, what was that rhyme? That command they all knew. You shouted it once, and this thing really flew.
The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly.
Come on, Dasher. Go, Comet. Do something, Cupid. That's it. Dash away. Gosh, I feel sort of stupid.
He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread.
Okay, easy does it. Just pull her down nice. If he catches me now, he writes naughty thrice.
He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, and turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod up the chimney he rose.
Quick, back inside. Now, reindeer, you stay. That thing's safety parked. Let's keep it that way.
He sprang to a sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim ere he drive out of sight, Happy
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
night.
Good evening. My name is Heather Bauer, and tonight I have a story called Humphrey's First Christmas. It's written and illustrated by Carol Ayer. Beloved, most beauteous and exalted King of all should be my name. Instead, they call me Humphrey. This I could bear if the worst thing of all had not happened. My dearest possession, my glorious carpet blanket, has been lost along the trail. Now I am never warm, and I suffer terribly. That is why I have set into motion a plan to replace my greatest of all treasures. I carefully nudged my nose inside the caravan master's tent. This is followed closely by the chattering of my teeth, thereby letting my master know that I am most enormously cold. Success! He has not pushed me out, and I remain hopeful that a new blanket will soon be mine. Three rich caravans have joined us, and there has been talk of kings. Yet these kings bring me no joy, for they have tied 3 huge chests on my bare back. They are so heavy, I am sure each must be filled with rocks. The other camels are wearing the finest blankets. They are all comfortable and warm. Not one of them thinks about me, their cousin in pain and misery because of the loss of my most precious carpet blanket. I cry out in sorrow. I weep. Today, I continue my plan to regain my treasured blanket. I add loud sniffling to the chattering of my teeth and squeeze my entire body inside my master's tent. As I do so, out rolls my master, for the tent is exactly camel size. It is as I planned. As the master chases me away, he tosses me a new blanket. I have success. Once more, I am covered with a splendor and comfort. I am filled with delight. If it were not for the heavy chest I am forced to carry, I would be almost happy. We have followed one star for many long nights. Now our caravan enters the town of Bethlehem. Its streets and inns are crowded with travelers. My master gives no thought to my tired feet and my rumbling belly. I am forced to move on. At last we reach the end of our journey, but I am confused. There is no great palace, no rich oasis, no palms heavy with fruit. I see only a lowly stable with a family inside. The 3 kings rejoice and rush forward to bow before the young woman who cradles the baby. Finally, The chests are taken from my back and placed before this tiny child. As each box is opened, I see no stones, only gold, frankincense, and myrrh. In this land, I have walked past many children, but never before have I felt the need to walk toward one. Now, I kneel before this baby shivering in the manger. Watching him gladdens me more than sweet water, fresh hay, or even my wondrous new blanket. I look into the baby's eyes, and I am overwhelmed by love. I pull the treasure from my back, and I lay my gift carefully upon this child. He smiles, and my nose and whiskers tingle with joy. I am happy to my toes, and even without my blanket, I feel warm. Beloved, most beauteous and exalted King of all should be his name. Instead, they call him Jesus. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
My name's Howard, and I want to share one of my favorite Christmas stories that isn't in the Bible, How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchly frown at the warm, lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled, with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then, oh, the noise. Oh, the noise, 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 noise. That's one thing he hated. The noise, 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 noise. Then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop the whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked. What a great Grinchy trick! With his coat and his hat, I'll look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No. The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Get up!" And the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. All the windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care when he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch, very nimbly, stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who ash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree, and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here. And this fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for the fire, Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 15:15 dawn. All the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their presents, their ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pow to the Who's, he was drenchily humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open in a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry boo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started out low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours, till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. Gotta show the puzzle. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. That's the story, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas. And if I can borrow from Dr. Seuss here, I am sure that Christmas doesn't come from a store, because I know that with Jesus, it means a whole lot more. God bless you.
Hi, I'm Carrie, and this is Chris, and tonight we're going to be reading Charlie Brown Christmas. Christmas time was here, the time when snowflakes fell softly and the sound of carols rang through the air. It was a time filled with happiness, and for children everywhere, it was their favorite time of the year.
But one little boy wasn't feeling very excited about Christmas. I just don't understand Christmas, Charlie Brown said, as the light snow began to fall. I might be getting presents, sending Christmas cards, and decorating trees, but I'm still not happy. I always end up feeling depressed. You're the only person I know who can take a wonderful season like Christmas and turn it into a problem, I replied. Lucy's right. Of all the Charlie Browns in the world, you're the Charlie Brownie.
At the local skating pond, the boys found their friends playing around a cracked whip. Snoopy grabbed Linus's blanket to drag him onto the ice, but he caught Charlie Brown in it and sent him flying into a snowbank. Charlie Brown wasn't surprised. Things like that always happened to him. And the holiday season, when he didn't get cars and even his own dog ignored him, only made it more obvious. He needed somebody to talk to.
Lucy dashed over to her psychiatrist to meet Charlie Brown. May I help you, she asked. I'm in sad shape, Charlie Brown replied with a sigh. My trouble is Christmas. I just don't understand it. Instead of feeling happy, I feel sort of let down.
Lucy knew just how to fix Charlie Brown's problem. You need to get involved in a Christmas project, she declared. How would you like to be the director of our Christmas play? Me? But I don't know anything about directing a Christmas play, Charlie Brown fretted. Don't worry. I'll be there to help you, Lucy said. I'll meet you at the auditorium.
Just then, Snoopy walked past, carrying a box filled with decorations. Charlie Brown followed Snoopy back to his doghouse. What's going on here? Charlie Brown asked. Snoopy handed him a flyer, and Charlie Brown read, Find the true meaning of Christmas. Win money, money, money at the spectacular, super colossal lights and display contest. Oh no. My dog's gone commercial. I can't stand it, Charlie Brown threw the flyer on the
On his way to the auditorium, he ran into his sister, Sally. I've been looking for you, big brother, she said sweetly. Will you please write a letter to Santa Claus for me? Sally knew exactly what she wanted, but her list was so long. She decided it would be easier to ask for money. How about 10s and 20s, she suggested. 10s and 20s? Oh, even my baby sister. Charlie Brown groaned. Surely Christmas was about more than money and presents.
In the auditorium, the whole Penis Gang danced to a jazzy tune that Schroeder played on his piano. Charlie Brown walked onto the stage. Let's get right down to work, he said. It's important that you pay strict attention to the director. Am I right? I said, am I right? But no one paid any attention to Charlie Brown. They had already started dancing.
Stop the music, Charlie Brown yelled. We're going to do this play and we're going to do it right. Lucy, pass out those scripts and costumes. One by one, the kids found out their roles in the play. Frida would play the innkeeper's wife. Pigpen would play the innkeeper. Shermie would play the shepherd. And Snoopy would play all the animals in the script and even some that weren't.
Let's rehearse the scene at the end, directed Charlie Brown. Let's take it from the top. Place it. Action. But once more, the kids started dancing and fooling around. Charlie Brown rolled his eyes. Good grief.
That does it, Charlie Brown explained. If we're ever going to get this play off the ground, we've got to have some cooperation. Let's face it, replied Lucy. We all know that Christmas is a big commercial racket. Well, this is one play that's not going to be commercial, Charlie Brown insisted. We need a proper mood. We need a Christmas tree.
Lucy nodded excitedly. A great, big, shiny aluminum Christmas tree. That's it, Charlie Brown. You get the tree, I'll handle this crowd. Okay, I'll take Linus with me. The rest of you, practice your lines, Charlie Brown said firmly. Get the biggest aluminum tree you can find, Charlie Brown called Lucy. Yeah, do something right for a change, Charlie Brown added Pepper and Patty as the boys walked into the cold winter night.
They followed a set of gleaming spotlights to a Christmas tree lot. It was filled with shiny metal trees, polka-dotted trees, and trees in every color of the rainbow. Clank, clank, clank. Linus knocked on one of the metal trees. Gee, do they still make wooden Christmas trees? Asked Linus. He didn't see anything like that in the Christmas tree lot.
Then Charlie Brown spotted a small, scraggly pine tree. It had a wooden trunk with soft green needles. This little tree seems to be needing a good home, he said excitedly. I don't know, Charlie Brown Linus replied. Remember what Lucy said? This doesn't seem to fit the modern spirit. I don't care, Charlie Brown insisted. We'll decorate it and it'll be just right for our play. Besides, I think it needs to be.
Soon Charlie Brown and Linus walked onto the stage. We're back, Charlie Brown announced as he set the tree on top of Schroeder's piano. When the kids rushed over to see the tree, their mouths dropped in shock. The scraggly little tree was not what they had expected. You were supposed to get a good tree. Can't you even tell a good tree from a poor tree, Lucy asked. You're hopeless, Charlie Brown added Peppermint Patty.
Charlie Brown sighed. I shouldn't have picked this little tree. Everything I do turns into a disaster. I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about. Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about? He exclaimed. Sure, Charlie Brown, replied Linus. I can tell you what Christmas is all about. Linus crossed to the center of the stage. The lights dimmed, and the spotlight shone down on him.
And there were shepherds in the field, keeping watch over the flock by night. The angel came and said, Fear not, for behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. For unto you is born this day a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling cloths lying in the manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly hosts, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. Everyone was silent when Linus finished. That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown, he finally said.
Charlie Brown picked up the tree and walked outside. He stared up at the night sky. Linus is right, he said. I won't let this commercialism ruin my Christmas. I'll take this little tree home and decorate it, and I'll show them it really will work in our play.
When he passed Snoopy's doghouse, Charlie Brown pulled a shiny red ornament off the doghouse and proudly hung it on the tree. But the tiny tree buckled under the weight of the ornament. A look of horror crossed Charlie Brown's face. I've killed it. Oh, everything I touch gets ruined. His head hung in defeat. Charlie Brown sadly walked away.
Then the rest of the Peanuts gang arrived. I never thought it was such a bad little tree, Linus said. He straightened the tree's bent trunk and wrapped his blankets around his face. It's not bad at all, really. It just needs a little love. Without speaking, the other kids took the lights and ornaments off Snoopy's doghouse and used them to decorate it. Before their very eyes, it transformed into a beautiful Christmas tree.
Charlie Brown walked up to the group and barely recognized the tree. What's going on here? He exclaimed. Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown, the kids exclaimed. And together they gathered around this beautiful Christmas tree. Merry Christmas, everyone.
My name's Kevin Drain, and I'll be reading a book called The Christmas Boot. It's written by Lisa Wheeler and illustrated by Jerry Pinkney. So, enjoy The Christmas Boot. Deep in the forest on Christmas morning, Hannah Greyweather gathered bundles of kindling wood. For her, this day was no different from any other. As she went about her chores, she chatted to the forest. She talked to the mountains, but mostly she spoke to herself. Brr, she said to the mountain, will this winter ever be over? It chills my bones. The mountain didn't answer. It looks awfully cold, doesn't it? For Hannah. Her arms were nearly full when just past the spruce grove she spotted something. In the snow, deepest black upon purest white, lay a boot. Glory be, Hannah exclaimed to the forest. Who could have lost this? The forest remained silent. And since her feet were fully freezing, and since it looked to be such a nice boot, she slipped her rag-wrapped left foot deep within it. "Ah," she said, "that does feel nice." It surely must have, for when she slid her tiny foot into the very large boot, it suddenly took on the shape and the size of Hannah's own foot. The boot fit perfectly. Look, it does look like it's reshaping. Hannah headed back to her ramshackle cabin, limping her way through the snow. Her warm left foot stepped nimbly as her cold right foot struggled to keep up. This boot was quite a find, Hannah said to herself, to the walls of her cabin. Where do you suppose it came from? The walls did not reply. Now she's getting ready for bed. As she slipped into bed that night, she stared, at the boot and said, "I only wish I had your mate." Then she drifted off to sleep. Hannah wants 2 boots, not just one. Well, in the morning, here she's getting up. "Come on, boot," Hannah said the next morning. "Time to get to work." But as she slid her legs over the side of her bed, she didn't see just one black boot. She saw 2. "Glory be," Hannah said to the right boot. "How did you get here?" The boot didn't say. Then Hannah Greyweather placed both her feet into those warm black boots. They fit most comfortably. Now she's outside with her boots on. As she went about her wood gathering, Hannah had a spring in her step that hadn't been there for years. She danced in the spruce grove, slipped along the creek bed, and even made snow angels on the hillside. Her feet felt wonderfully warm. She looks like she's having fun. Yeah, here she is making snow angels in the hillside. And look, the rabbits and birds are hanging out with her. Well, that night, Hannah placed her boots next to her bed and marveled at her good fortune. "Such a magnificent find," she said to the left boot. "Who could have lost such a treasure as you?" The boot stood silent. "No matter," said Hannah. "I've made good use of you. If I had mittens as toasty warm, I would be the happiest woman in the world." So now she wants mittens to go with her boots. Well, in the morning, tucked neatly inside each boot was a bright red mitten. "Glory be," Hannah said to the boots. "What form of magic is this?" The boots wouldn't tell. She put on the mittens, and like the boots, they fit perfectly. "If the boot is magic," she said to the mittens, "will it give me more? Will it give me a fluffy feather bed, a fabulous feast, a big fancy house?" The mittens stayed mute. "I suppose that is too much to ask," said Hannah. "I best get about my chores." In the woods that day, Hannah's feet and hands felt equally fine. She climbed the mountain trail, gathered chestnuts, and built a towering snowman. As she strolled home, an amazing sight met her eyes. Look what she saw. It looks like she has a new house, not a ramshackle cabin. Where her ramshackle cabin had been stood a big fancy house. Luscious smells drifted from the open doorway. Glory be, Hannah said to the house. How did you get here? The house didn't say. That's a big house. Inside, Hannah wandered from room to room, taking in the loveliness of it all. She tasted the fabulous foods. She smuggled in the fluffy feather bed, and somehow it didn't seem fully real. It didn't seem fully right either. Well, unlike the wonderful boots and mittens, the house didn't seem to fit Hannah. She went from a ramshackle cabin to a mansion, didn't she? Suddenly there was a knock, knock, knock on the fine front door. Who could it be? Hannah asked the feather bed. I've never had company. The bed stayed silent. She opened the door cautiously, peeking through the crack between the door and the wall. She spied a man with a very white beard. He wore a red hat, a red suit, and one black boot. May I help you? Hannah asked the man. Yes, he answered. I think you may have found something of mine. Hannah was happily surprised to hear the sound of another voice. She opened the door at once. Glory be, she said. Come in, come in. You must be freezing. Just my left foot, said the man with a twinkle in his eye. Hannah looked down at her own booted feet. Yes, she said, I do believe I have something that belongs to you. And look, one boot on and one boot off. So she fixed the man a cup of tea. She served him chestnuts. They talked of everything and nothing deep into the night. Now, she said, I best give you your boot so you can be on your way. When the man placed his large left foot into the boot, it took on the shape and size of his very own foot. Ah, he said, that does feel nice. She got to see the boot change shape and size, didn't she? At once, the big fancy house, the fabulous feast, and the fluffy feather bed disappeared. Even her right boot and mittens were gone. I am sorry, said the man. No need, said Hannah. It is as it should be. The boot didn't belong to me, but I enjoyed it while it was here. Is there anything I can give you? Asked the man. What do you truly desire? What I truly desire is someone to talk to, said Hannah. But warm boots and a pair of mittens would be mighty fine. The man in the red suit winked. Suddenly there appeared a dandy pair of red boots and green mittens. Thank you, sir, Hannah said as she walked him to the door and bid him goodbye. I will make fine use of them. She's waving goodbye. And look, there's a reindeer in this picture. That night, as she climbed into bed, Hannah said good night to her new mittens and boots. Arf, the left boot answered. What? Hannah cried. She pecked inside the boot. Two eyes peered back at her. Arf, arf! She heard again. Then she reached into the boot and pulled out a wiggly puppy into her arms. "Thank you," Hannah whispered to the night sky as she held her new friend close. The night sky answered. There she is, holding her new puppy. You know how the night sky answered? Here she is outside looking at the night sky, and the night sky with Santa in a sleigh says, "Merry Christmas, Hannah! Merry Christmas!" What a good story, huh? May your holidays be blessed and Christ-filled. That's the real reason for this season. Jesus, our Savior, Jesus, our Lord. Amen.
Ho, 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 this is Santa. I am here to tell you the greatest gift about Christmas, the real meaning of Christmas, the birth of Jesus. Let me just start here. Mary told Joseph about a heavenly visitor. Still, he doubted. Had he seen an angel? Was this baby to be God's son? Was Mary telling the truth? Joseph decided to break off the marriage as quietly as possible. He did not want Mary to be shamed and publicly disgraced. But God knew his thoughts. That very night, he sent his angel Gabriel to Joseph in a dream. "Don't be upset," he said. "Mary's baby will be born through God's power and his Spirit. You shall name him Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins." How relieved Joseph felt to hear this message. Gladly he took Mary as his wife. Then came the news of the Roman Empire that all people would be taxed and everyone must register in their hometown. For Joseph, that meant going to Bethlehem. He took Mary on a tiresome 4-day journey to Bethlehem. When they arrived, Mary longed for a soft bed. But alas, the inn in Bethlehem was already full. So they had to stay in the stable. There, Mary's baby was born. Joseph and Mary gazed with the joy at the little child. That was the promised Messiah. Joseph said, "We shall name him Jesus, just like the angel told us. He is the one God sent to save us." Mary wrapped baby Jesus in long strips of cloth. Then Joseph laid him in a manger. The end.
Hi, my name is Annette, and tonight I will be reading The Night Before Christmas by Clement C. Moore. It was the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas would soon be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads, and Mama in her kerchief and I and my cat had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With the little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes how they twinkled, his dimples how merry, his cheeks like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of its head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings and turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.